And good morning, and welcome to Touch Base Daily. And my name is Ron Foster, and I'm here to touch base with you as I do every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekends. How are you all doing? It is Tip Tuesday. Today, we'll be talking about photography tips. So stay tuned, stay connected. We are going to talk about the grid. What? Yeah, right. Get on the grid. They always say get off the grid. People are getting off the grid. We're going to be talking about getting on the grid, getting on with the grid today on this Tip Tuesday. So welcome to Tip Tuesday. This is our Touch Base Daily that we focus on photography on Tuesdays. Tuesday is our day for that, and giving you some tips, hopefully, that will help you in your photography. And they're just basic tips. This is not, I know there's a bunch of elites out there in the photography arena, but this is for the basics. This is the basic tips. If you want something a little more advanced, and then we can talk outside of this platform, because I do have a photography one-on-one class that I teach. And like I said, no one pops on. Oh, wait, I tell you, the phone never rings until I get on here. So anyway, how are you guys doing? It is Tip Tuesday. There's a lot going in the news today, but we can stay away from the news. I'm not sure. It's only what? It's just myself and Gwendolyn here today. Who else is in the building? It's just the two of us. It's the two of us. But that's okay. It's that kind of day. It's been an interesting kind of day, I would say. And let me cut this little phone down, because I don't know why anyone would be calling me. Oh, you know what? I do have a guest tomorrow. I do believe I do have a guest tomorrow. Anyway, good. We'll talk about that. I always turn on Do Not Disturb when I go live or record. I usually do too, but just the two of us. See, there we go. Just singing here with my work wife, Gwendolyn. We are here together. Yeah, what's happening in the world today? Wow. Has anyone been following the Trump case? It's interesting that they did a poll yesterday, and they were saying so many people are exhausted from Trump, the name of Trump. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try not to talk about it as much, because people are exhausted with the orange man. Janet's in the building. What's going on? You're my background for rearranging clutter. Is that the case, Janet? I'm background noise. Goodness gracious. But yeah, it's quiet. It's like crickets in the room today. Oh man, that's okay. So that means we'll just get straight to the business. We will talk business. Well, first of all, let me just do. How about this? I'll do some announcements early, so that way people that are watching the video, they'll see the announcements. Just so people that are watching would know. Let me put this little banner up. For those that don't know, I do photography. Photograph your world is my what I do virtually. Is virtual basic photography 101. I love doing fun tutoring using your camera model, creating instructions and learning at your pace. Available in person tutoring in New York City also. So if you're in New York City, we could do one-on-ones, but it is a virtual teaching what do you call it, teaching plan. And so my students, we get to go online and research together, and also each week they get homework. So if you want some virtual basic photography 101 teaching, which we go over composition, we talk about nomenclature of your camera, all that good stuff, you are more than welcome to reach out to me on my website, and we can have a conversation and get you started in one of the classes. Like I said, this is a virtual basic photography class. This is not advanced. However, you can hire me for advanced as well, and we could talk about that. But I really focus on people that want to just pick up the camera they are buying their first camera, or they're buying a new camera and stepping up from, the little basic hobby, and they want to take it to the next level, or they want to take it up from the smartphone and go to the next level. So there we go. That's what we have there. So, also, if you are in the YouTube channel, I see someone else has walked into the room. I see Lisa's in the building. Lisa is in the building. Good morning. Good morning. And yeah, so if you're interested in that, also, if you are, again, like I was going to say, if you are in the Instagram world, I'm making use of these banners that have been sitting here for the longest. uh, you can go to our photography community channel right here on YouTube. So it's our Touch Base Daily. So come on, you can do that. And also, the photography community channel is in our Instagram page. You can do that as well as Ron Lewis Photos. So check that out as well. So I'm getting some play. I'm playing around with all these beautiful things here, all these beautiful banners that I have here while we get started, while we wait for folks to come in, and then we're gonna go straight into Tip Tuesday. Hey, Omar's in the building. Thank you, Omar, for your help yesterday. Omar, again, this is the beauty of having community, is that I was stumped on my Photoshop yesterday, and there was a particular thing I was trying to do, and I was like, I need help. I need help. And it was first person I had called and reached out to was Omar. And I said, Omar, help me, help me. He says, what do you need? And yeah, and now I am forever schooled in that section. So I won't be calling him for that, but I am definitely going to be learning more of my Photoshop. That is one of my weak areas. You would think I would be proficient in Photoshop. I am not a Photoshop person. I really only use, oh, I should say, I mostly use Lightroom. And but I am going to definitely, I did engagement photos today. Can you imagine? I did engagement photos. Now, you know what? I don't like doing weddings. I don't like photography, wedding photography. I love watching it. I love observing it. I love looking at other photos that these great photographers that are photographers, that wedding photographers. I love those images. I just don't like them. I don't like doing them myself. However, what I do love are engagements. I do love engagement pictures. And so this morning I had a photo shoot with a beautiful couple, and just got engaged. Well, they didn't just get engaged, they got engaged a while back, but now we got the photos to go along with the engagement. And their wedding is next month, and they're gonna keep it real simple. They're doing a city hall wedding, and they're not spending a fortune on it. They're spending a fortune on their travels. They're gonna be traveling around the world together for their honeymoon. And, it's so exciting. But it was beautiful to be out at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden this morning. All the cherry blossoms are at peak this morning, and photographing the two of them. And we had so much fun. And then he takes out the beautiful, he had just got the ring done for her. Beautiful sapphire with diamonds all around it. I was like, yeah. He's hooking her up with some good jewelry. And so it was really good to be out there photographing her this morning, and he and her this morning. So I do love photographing couples. I love it. I love the engagements. There's just something special about seeing young folks getting together, getting married. I mean, it doesn't have to be just one folks, but when you see two individuals coming together and you see how much they're in love, it's so beautiful. Just photograph it in a relaxed environment. You're not stressed out because it's a wedding. You're not stressed out because there's timelines. You just know, hey, meet me at the garden and let's take some photos. And you also, because I'm a member there, I try to be stealthily taking photos. I'm not like taking like lights and all that stuff, but they came out really. I think we got some really good photos, and they like them because, as I'm photographing, I'm sharing. I see here, Janet says sometimes you lose track of where. Oh, there we go. Let me put that up there. Sometimes you lose track of where some functions are located in Photoshop. Drives me mad. Janet, I am with you. Oh my gosh. Someone tell me it is, Photoshop is a beast. It's a beast. I find that Lightroom is a lot more easy to manage, but Omar gave me some good wisdom yesterday about when to use Lightroom and when to use Photoshop. Like for models and wedding couples, close-ups, use that beautiful Photoshop. And when you're using event photography, Lightroom is the best thing for event photography because you're knocking out lots of photos and you're going through these photos and mass edits and all that stuff. So there's a place for every tool. And so that's a good thing to know, right? We have tools for everything we need. Okay, I think we're gonna start class. I think we're gonna go there. I think we're going to go there. Unless anyone, what do you got? Well, how about this? What are you guys doing this morning besides Janet cleaning up the house as I'm her background noise? So what's going on? This has been this has been some kind. Oh, I got let me change that back over there. Okay, there we go. My hoodie is a little out of whack, and I'm thinking in reverse when I'm on this when I'm on this camera. Omar says Ron will be setting up a Photoshop class for us. You know what? Guess what? Because Omar. Omar knows me. Omar knows me well. When I am committed to doing something, I dive in 1000%. I guarantee you this time next year, even before then, I always give myself these long-term goals and I can really accomplish it in a much faster fashion. I will probably by the end of summer, I will be really good at Photoshop because I'm going to have a great teacher. Omar. Omar is going to be my teacher and I'm going to learn everything he has to offer. And so I'm going to definitely dive into it. Gwendolyn says she is writing newsletters and blog posts. Yeah, so that's what we're doing there. And okay, I think it's time to start. I think it's time to start class. It is 11:30, so we have 15 minutes in. Okay, so let's do that. Let me pop this off and we're going to go. So today's topic is, like I said, how to use our camera's grid lines. For those that know me as a photographer and those that have been in my communities, my Patreon community, or just kind of like hanging out with me in my meetup group, which we meet every fourth Saturday of the month, you know that I am a believer of the grid. The grid is the greatest thing that has ever at least in the old cameras, I don't think we had the grid. I don't know. Omar, in the old cameras back in the 80s and 70s, 80s, and 90s, I don't think we had grids on our cameras. I think they really started appearing in the mid 90s, and now you see them everywhere on cameras if people use them. And I always say when you have your smartphone, you go into your camera, go into your phone, and you turn on the grid. It is so important when you're taking photos. And my grid is always on. Like you see here. Yeah, you can see the faint grid all over, there it is, the grid. And this grid usually on the phone is they really keep it very basic. You see that? See that? See the grid lines? There we go. See those grid lines right there? Those grid lines are going to help you take better pictures. And I remember we had this class and we did this on Instagram when we were on Instagram only. And some of the folks that listened and went out and did this, and some of the folks that were in my Patreon class went out and did this. And they were like, Ron, thank you so much. My whole life is different in how I engage with my camera on my phone. But then also on these, on our, I always call the big daddies, these cameras also have grids, but they're very pronounced. Look how nice. And I mean, there's no faint lines here. But I rely on my grids. I do not take photos without it. It's just me. It is, I know some folks say, hey, you could imagine your grid in your head, but I love the grid. The grid is so important to me. It allows me to see in what quadrants I want to place my subject. And then in where I place the subject is going to be where how I tell the story in the rest of the frame. There's an old saying is fill the frame with your story. And so the grid is so important. We're going to dive into that. Okay. Oh, wait, before we go there, I see there's some comments there. Um, Omar said, back in the day, you had to buy a screen adapter. Oh, I see. Did not know that. Hey, Terry's in the building. Terrence is in the building. Good morning. Good morning, sir. And hey, Rashawn is in the building. She's made it to class. She's made. Rashawn is one of the students that said, "Hey, I'm using the grid." I think it was Rashawn, and I know. Hey, Cass is in the building too. Part of the Patreon community. She's using the grid also. And AI is in the building. Good morning. Good morning. Let's give it some little morning love there. Hey, the Sunny Boy is in here. I was just talking about you this morning, Adrian. We got to clear up. We got to look at our calendars for Thursday and Friday. I got to find out if you are busy so we can check out Civil War if you haven't seen it already. Anyway, we'll talk about that. But yeah, the grid. How to use the grid. Let's start. Grid lines in your camera serve as a valuable tool for improving the composition and balance of your photographs. Here are some key reasons to use them. Here we go, y'all. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready to dive in? Okay, let me just get rid of that little banner there. And there we go. We're going to take that off. And we are ready. Here we go. Here we go. Enhancing framing skills. Grid lines provide a visual guide to help you frame your subjects more effectively. They can be especially useful in portrait photography, where aligning your subject with the grid lines can lead to a more compelling shot. Like, for instance, if you're doing a landscape, let's say you're looking out and doing a landscape or a cityscape, you can match the lower line or the upper line or with the horizon. So it is really good in leveling your camera as well. So, but back to this portrait thing is also you can align the eyes. Like some people like to take photos with their head a little bit to the left, or some to the right. Some people just pose with leaning. They just lean. But if you have the grid, you can kind of like really place them in the right position. You can say, hey, move your head to the left, move to the right. You can set them up. You can frame it nicely. You can make sure that all the spaces are nice, or you can move them slightly to the third quadrant, or move them over and cover two quadrants. Because the basic grid on your phone is usually 9 squares, right? 9 squares. So you got the top quadrant, middle quadrant, bottom quadrant, left quadrant, center quadrant, right quadrant. That's your grid. Okay, so use it for your portraits. Next, elevating landscape photography is what I was getting ready to talk. I rushed it. I was getting ready to dive into it before I wanted to go there. For landscape shots, grid lines can help you balance the horizon with the foreground, creating visual appealing images. They ensure that the horizons are straight, which is crucial for a professional looking landscape photo. I remember I used to take photos, and sometimes the horizon was the horizon looked like it was to the left or to the right. And then one of my friends, who's a photographer, said, "You know, you may want to straighten that up." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, your horizon is leaning to the left or leaning to the right." Well, in this case, the picture was leaning to the right. And I said, "Ah." And from that point on, I realized the value in having the grid line. Now, there's all kinds of ways of working your composition. We're not going to talk about that right now because we could use these grid lines for composition and how to move this and have it like you see here in this picture. You see that the horizon is on the top quadrant, right? The top quadrant is where this horizon line is, but you can also put which is pretty much a good tip when you're doing landscape photography, bring your horizon all the way to the top, like the top quadrant, or bring it all the way down to the lower quadrant. Try not to take a photo of a landscape or a cityscape in the center. It is to be avoided. But bring since I'm here, since we're talking about it, I might as well just share a little tip there, right? But bring your horizon line to the top quadrant or bring it down to the bottom quadrant. Okay, there we go. Same here. You see this horizon line is up here. You got all these similar objects. There we go. Okay, here's number 3. Ensuring level photos. The straight lines of the grid can assist you in keeping your photos level, preventing skewed and lopsided shots like I used to do. I've had my lopsided shots. This is particularly important for architectural and photography where the perspective needs to be accurate. Also, not only the horizon lines, but what's really nice when I'm taking pictures of like I love photographing the city during what's called the blue hour. That's the best time to take pictures of architecture. And so what I will do is I will line up the street with the home or the house or the building because you can use your left side and your horizon and then match that with the building and then you know everything is correct. Your lines are correct like it's talking here. Your straight lines are all even vertically and horizontally. So vertical and horizontal lines are meeting, keeping your lines straight on the sides, but yet you can use your horizon lines, right? Because you can see if your building is not matching, like the building is turning straight, but your camera is like this, you got to straighten up the camera so that those grid lines are in alignment with the architecture, with the building. Make sense? Okay. Let me see there. I see good morning. Cass's picture be okay. It is when I take my pictures tilt. Speaking of the tilted head, Cass says pictures be okay is when I take my pics, tilt my head. And there we go. There's a lot of tilters. There are a lot of people that tilt their heads when they are getting a portrait shot done. Anyway, back to this. Okay, next. Stay focused, Ron. Stay focused. Grid lines, enhancing photo composition, which we kind of like led this off, but it's going to give you this breakdown. Using grid lines can improve the overall composition of your photos by placing critical elements along the grid lines or at their intersections. You can create a sense of harmony and visual equilibrium. Now, this is a good one. Oh, I see a question. If you have a question, make sure you put a Q and then the question. I like that. Janet, gonna put a pin there. I got you. I got you, Janet. And this is really, really important because again, there are all types of composition. You can do 4 grids, you can do 9 grids, you can do there are all kinds of grids, and there's some spirals for composition. But today we're just using basic grid lines, which is usually based on the rule of thirds. However, you saw that on my camera here. This is, oops, let me turn this back on. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a grid of 16. So it's 16. But there are some, the basic grid, 3 lines up, 3 lines down. That's on based on 4. There are some on 3. I think there are some also on, you got 16, 16. Yeah, okay. So it's 4 and 3 are usually the case in most devices, but there are others. Okay. So again, it says using grid lines can improve the overall composition. And there's something about that. Because then you can see when you're using your grid that you can put your subject 2/3 in, 1/3 in, and it will change the way the story is told. Here's a thought. Television, film. When you go to the movies, when you watch a television show, you are looking at composition throughout the movie. But there's certain compositions that you can see the grid line. You will never look at a movie the same after this. For instance, usually when two people are having a conversation in a movie or on the screen, one person is to the left and then 2/3 is empty to the right. Then when the conversation goes to the other person speaking on the right, then they're on the 1/3, and then the 2/3 is usually empty. Now, there have been some film people that have broken the rules. I was looking at a movie a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Oh, they're going the opposite way." The film person, I don't even know what movie it was I was looking at, but the director went the opposite. Every time there was a conversation, which was I felt it kind of strange, but it worked. In the conversation, he had 2/3, or I think it was a he who had who did this direction, had the 2/3 behind the person in conversation to the left, and then 2/3 behind the person when their conversation was from the right. Never seen that before in film. It was interesting. So people do break the rules, and rules are made to be broken. You know, there's old sayings of older photographers. Know the rules so you can break them. Know all the rules so you can break them. As creatives, you want to break the rules, but you need to know the rules at first. You need to know why something is happening. So, again, so in conversation, looking at a movie, you see the person is usually to the left and they're usually 2/3 in, and the opposite is 2/3 out for the next person that's having a conversation. And they will flip from screen to screen, left side of the screen, then right side of the screen. However, there's other compositions too of authority. Authority. For instance, a monologue. Someone is in a film and they're doing a monologue. They're usually in the center of the screen. They're usually in the center third, like 1, 2/3, right? This the left quadrant, center quadrant, right quadrant, because the center is used for lifting someone up, meaning they're powerful, right? What do I mean by that? The president of the United States. Usually when the president speaks, he speaks from the center. You don't ever see the president on the left or the right. You don't see someone in a conversation by themselves, usually to the left or the right, unless the composition is to tell some kind of story. They may be to the left, like you see me right now to the left, because the other 2/3 has the information. Okay, the question here. I see some more. Here's a question. Does the grid work using the horizon when photographing a building on a downward or upward slant? Ooh. That is, it works. You know why? For the most part, there is always going to be a straight line. If there's a hill, let's say there's a hill or a slant moving from the building is usually going to be straight up, and the hill may be a slant, right? Or in some architecture, like there's a building in Manhattan, I forgot, on 42nd Street, where there is a slant. There's a slant coming out, but at the end of the day, your verticals and your horizons are still going to line up. You're still going to make a 45-degree angle. But there are some cases that it doesn't happen, it doesn't work. And you have to use either or. You have to use your horizon line to make the line straight, or you use your vertical line. Okay. So it's not all, again, there are some rules to be broken. Does that help, Janet? Let me know. Grand Rising. Hey, Amparo. I see you in the building. I see Hills. I'm sorry, Cass. Cassandra says, do you use grid lines for mostly steel objects or for action pics, movement, fashion, runways? These are good tips, she says. Yes, I use the grid line all the time. Like I said, when I'm doing fashion week and I'm watching that fashion model coming down the catwalk, there's sometime I want her to the left, and I want the leading line of the catwalk to move towards her, and I'll put her on the left side because I want to tell the story with her engaging with the audience. So I may have a tilt more of I'll have her in the right quadrant or either the left quadrant because I want to include the audience, the observers. However, in fashion photography, or if I'm doing a fashion work or not fashion photography, like fashion week, a lot of times if it's for the person that is the actual designer and I'm photographing for them, then I want them in the center because I want to tell the story of the outfit, the clothing they're wearing. There's also there's a lot of technical things that are going on at the same time, but I am using the grid. How far is her head up on the grid? Is her face in the first quadrant, second quadrant? Yeah. So we're spending a little time here, which is good because it takes me to the next part of this grid conversation. So I hope that does it. So Cass, yes, the grid line is always present in your mind. If a car is racing, you still use the grid lines. If a tree is standing on a hill, you can, and it's blowing, yes. If there's a tornado moving, you're still using your grid lines. The grid lines help you tell your story. And it helps you decide on how you want to tell your story by using these wonderful grid lines. I see here also at their intersections. There's a key here that, for instance, I'll use the big camera since you can see it better. And let's go there. Let me remove that real quick for a moment. And you see these lines. These are what's called intersecting lines. And the rule of thumb, let me just get that there. The rule of thumb is to get your subject on the intersections. Get your subject on the intersections. Does that make sense? And if any of the photographers want to add on, they can add on. But you want your subject to land on the intersections. Like if I'm taking a picture of a bird and I want to connect it to its environment, I may have the bird maybe down here. Oops, let me just see if I can get that. I may have the bird over here, but then all of the environment out this way. Or I might take the bird and bring it up a little further and put it there. So I use my intersections as where I want to place my subject. It is also when I'm doing a portrait where I want to place the eye of the subject, the left eye or the right eye to balance them in the grid. Okay, so that grid line does a whole lot. It's a whole lot with that grid line. But really, you put your subject on the intersection. Let me bring this back. Okay, does that help? Does that help, Cass? So, yes, moving objects, you're going to still use that grid. You're still going to use the grid. Okay. And let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Let me look at the time. Time check. Okay, we're good. We're good. We are good. Applying the rule of thirds. That's what we most of us have on our phones in threes. The grid lines can help you apply the rule of thirds, a compositional principle that suggests placing the subject off center to create a more interesting photo. And also, the intersections of the grid lines are often preferred to as PowerPoints, where you can position important elements of the scene. Right? I just said that, right? Now you're seeing it in writing. Let me say it again. The grid lines can help you apply the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds is just one of the composition rules. There are many of them, but the rule of thirds is a great place to start since we all have them on our devices. A compositional principle that suggests placing the subject off center. Remember, off center, and sorry, a more it makes it a more interesting photo, and the intersections of the grid lines. I did not know this as I did this reading that it was called the PowerPoints. Did not know. I had not heard until I did this. Planned this for you guys. I did not know that terminology. Omar, did you ever hear this terminology before? That the intersections are called the PowerPoints? Didn't know that. See, that's the beauty of sharing information. You are still learning. We are always continually learning. Okay, so there you go. Place your subjects on the PowerPoints. Those are the intersecting lines. Okay, again, allowing space for movement. Remember, we were talking about that. Like here we go. Look at this. You got the subject on the left side, and you got all this airspace on the right side. When photographing moving subjects, grid lines can help you give them space to move into when the frame adding a dynamic element to your shots. Almost a note, but I'm a terrible student. So, but yeah, so for instance, using your grid line, a car is moving fast from left to right. You want to capture it, right? So there's a subliminal message going on. You want to catch the car. If the car is moving moving this direction, then you want the car to be leading into the frame versus all the way or not all the way in the frame. Let me just say that again. If you have a car coming in from, I can't use left to right because this camera is throwing me off of how you guys are seeing it. But if you're moving in from one direction or the other, you want the car to be closest to the edge is coming from, right? If the dog is running, you want the dog to be closest to the direction it's coming from, and its nose pointing into a free two-thirds. Ooh, that may have been complicated. That may have been a little complicated. Probably should have had some photos here, but if this was a dog going this direction, then this would be the dog here and all this free space there, if that makes sense. What it does, it tells you where the dog is going or where the car is going, right? So by having the direction of where it's going in front of the subject, it tells you what direction the subject is going or moving. And so you place it on where? One of those PowerPoints, which is the intersecting lines. Okay, Amparo says, yes, they use the language in a few programs I use. But love to hear it here. Repetition, repetition, repetition. That's see, we're going to use that. We're going to use the PowerPoint. I love that. I love that term, PowerPoint, because that's exactly where it is. That's where the subject lives, on the PowerPoint. So we got a new I got a new term, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to wear it out. Adults need to hear something over 40 times to get concept. Yes, it's true. Very true. Jadea Stage, she says, hi, Ron. I love your work. This is my first Tip Tuesday. I got you on the moving car analogy. Thank you. I'm glad you got it. See? So put it on the PowerPoint. Put the nose of the car on the PowerPoint, on the furthest direction, as it's, or I should say, the corner, the square that is coming out from. Okay, there you go. Give the subject room in front of itself. Okay, here we go. Next, here's another one. Positioning the subject's eyes. In portrait photography, placing the subject's eyes at one of the intersections, I talked about this earlier, points of the grid lines, or we can say the PowerPoint, right? The PowerPoint can make the photo more engaging and lively. So, for instance, um, gosh, I really should have had another section of photos to show you, but I'm gonna just do the best I can. When you think of a portrait, we photographers, we do it all the time. One is trying to get the two eyes, and you have these 2 points on the top, the top quadrant. So let's say the top quadrant, remember you have 3 quadrants going up, 3 quadrants going to the side. So left quadrant, center, right, and then you have top quadrant, center, and then bottom horizon, right? The intersection on the top is where we like to put the face, or like the eyes. The eyes are usually located on that first quadrant line, somewhere near it. And we usually take the eye of the subject and place it on one of the intersections. Does that make sense? So the eyes, now, if someone, so you might have to step back, because some people may have a elongated head, right? So they're not going to get all the head in, but you may have to step back. But also, sometimes you don't want all of the head in there. You just want the eyes, which makes the photo more compelling. It makes you go into the soul of the individual. But if you take that top quadrant either to the left or to the right, remember, in the rule of thirds the rule of thirds, there are only 4 PowerPoints, right? On your smartphone, there are only 4 PowerPoints. Let me open this up a little bit. Right? If I turn it horizon, see, there's only 4 PowerPoints, and those are the center boxes, right? So if you take that and get that in there, that first line on the top is where you should place eyeballs. And obviously, there's more to it, but that is a good base to start. Okay, let's go back to the lesson. Good. Gotta check my time. Gotta check the time. Okay, next. Keeping main subject off center. The main subject off center can make the composition more interesting and aesthetically pleasing. And grid lines make it easier to achieve this effect. Here you have here. See, the subject, well, it could be the stars, could be the subject, or you could be the mountains that are the subject. But either way, if it's the stars, you've given it 2/3 to tell the story. If it's the mountains, you've given it 1/3. Either way, you don't want the mountain in the center. It's a boring photo. Also, if you probably put a grid on this, you'll find that this star is on the lower PowerPoint. See that? If you drew an imaginary line here, it's very close to that lower PowerPoint. There you go. Okay. So next, any other questions? Make sure if you have questions, put them in there so we can answer them quickly because again, we're going to run out of time and I don't want you to not get your questions answered. Here's another one, aiming for natural balance. Grid lines can help you achieve a natural balance in your photos, making them more pleasing to the eyes. There's something about symmetry. There's something about taking a photo, for instance, of a row of trees and having the trees close to you move away from you and move towards the center as it goes away from you. Having balance. There are some photos you want symmetry. You want symmetry, and those grid lines will help you to achieve it. You'll be able to see how much tree is to that left and how much tree is to the right of that line. So you can balance them in so that the lines are perfect or near perfect and then move them in. Okay? Next. By using grid lines, you can take your photography to the next level. Whether you're a beginner looking to improve your skills or an experienced photographer aiming for perfection in your compositions, they are a simple yet powerful tool that can greatly enhance the quality of your images. Nice. Okay. Did anyone learn anything today? Q and A, you got 5 minutes for Q&A. Any questions? This is your time. It's the Q&A time. This is your time to ask questions. Put a Q in front of your question and we can answer them. Okay? You have a community of photographers here. Amparo's in the building. You have myself. You have Omar, Janet, all these photographers right here. So, any questions? No questions? You already got the questions out? Where's Adrian? No questions from Adrian? No questions? Okay. Rashawn says, I'm learning, which is good. Okay. I like that. Okay. I like that. Rashawn also said, this is good. Let me go back there. Brian said in the chat, the same principle I just shared with my design students. That was earlier. Okay. Okay. It looks like we're good. Looks like we're good. I never turn off the grid. The grid lines are on all the time because one is I want to make sure my camera is leveled. I want to make sure that things are balanced within the frame. I am always thinking about 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 up, 2/3 down. Where's the subject? Should the subject be? Now, it's not perfectly on the PowerPoints, excuse me, but I am always aware of where my subject is. And so therefore, I always have my grid on my camera. Here's a question. Omar says, "What are most people photographing in this group? What are you guys photographing? What are you guys photographing?" I know I like to photograph, as you can see over the last couple of days. This is my favorite time of the year. I get to photograph flowers. I love photographing trees. I love photographing people. But mostly, I love this time of year because you only get this time of the year once a year, is to see all the trees blooming and blossoming, and you get to photograph them. 'Cause I mean, that is so important to me, like the springtime. So, anyway, what do you guys photograph? Are you guys photographing family? Are you guys photographing your kids? Are you photographing your neighborhood? Are you photographing houses? Are you photographing cars? Are you everyone, for most of you guys in here are like photographer, like likers. What are you guys what are you guys photographing? That's a good question, Omar. Cass says, nature, candid events. There you go. See? What are you guys photographing? And Cass says, this was a great review, lessons, and tips. Thank you. Appreciate it. Here's Amparo has a question. Can you talk about the golden ratio? The golden ratio. I don't know the golden ratio. I probably know the golden ratio, but I don't know it as the golden ratio. I don't know. Could you give me more information on the golden ratio? But you know what I always do? Hey, look, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the Google machine. Hold on a second. Let me just go there for a moment. Since we are here, and that's a good question because I may have learned it as under another name. Um, Hold on, let me get that real quick up here so we can answer that. That's a good question because I don't know the term. Okay. Oh, yes, the golden ratio. See, I always call it the swirl. Oh, okay, how about this? We can let me see if I can do this real quick. Hold on. Let me show you some images. Oh, okay. Let me go there. Okay. Oh, this I love it. That's what happens when you got photographers in the room. Let me try to present this. Hold on a second. I want to share this because this is really cool. This is when you guys want to take your composition up another level. Here we go. Here we go. That's called the golden ratio. And there's this swirl. Like you want your subject, and it swirls out. And there's lots of these. Let me go to see if I can. And you're using this swirled composition. You see? So, but that's composition. Y'all going, Amparo's going deep here. She's taking y'all down a deep road here. Let me see what time it is. Okay, I got a moment. Okay. But this is what the golden ratio is. So again, you see the truss of the Brooklyn Bridge. This is the main subject, moving it around. I probably should have just simply had this going as well during this lesson, right? But you see this swirling out. Yeah. However, our basic cameras are not configured this way. Um, but we as photographers, we do study this. You see how the subject is closely here, moving in, and then it gives relief as you move out on this curve or this swirl or the golden ratio. Omar, do you use the golden ratio? Did you know this term? Roxanne, she said, and the snail curve composition. Yeah, I always see it as a snail, but I've always called it the curve. But yeah, here it is. The subject is right here, and you see it moves out and it fills in the frame to tell the story. See, it brings all these relationships. But again, if you follow the rule of thirds too, this person's still on the lower quadrant of the third, right? If this was a quadrant here, quadrant there, but just slightly off from the quadrant, from the PowerPoint. Wow. Thank you, Amparo. That was good. That was a good one, Amparo. That was a good one. Okay, I'm gonna remove that. That was good. That was good. Omar says, I remember when this was introduced and that it it was comedic. Because people didn't know what it was. But I remember when I learned this and I was like, wow, that's the curve. So I just call it the curve. I never called it the golden ratio. Nice. Thank you. Thank you for that. I learned a new term. I mean, I think I may have heard it, but I just never made the relationship. It's a good one. Okay, it's time to get ready to get off of here. I definitely do indeed capture the moments. Uh, Anthony says he's late to the party. Yes, you're late. Where's your pass? Where's your teacher pass? Eh, Janet says she photographs anything that catches her eye. Um, obviously I photograph my and Brian says I photograph my offspring. Okay, so it seems like you guys are like behind. Maybe this thing is on a trail. It seems to work that way. Everything comes rushing in. Okay, I see here, and I see, and of course, Amparo says she photographs landscapes. Okay, and also she says she photographs portraits, events, fashion, musical concerts. Okay, there we go. We got all these now. Look at all this stuff that you guys are talking about now. I mean, obviously, it came in here. It must have floated in here late. Brian says he does automobiles, anything design centric, architecture, products, and fashion. So we got a lot of folks using their cameras. We have a lot of folks using their cameras. Part two may, yeah, we may have to have a part two. That would be deeper. That would be diving into composition. I don't know if I want to take you down that road, y'all. Omar says, after doing photography for over 40 years, you learn through osmosis and grow to be better. Yes, we continue to grow. You never know everything. That's the beauty of photography. You are continually learning. Okay. And Power says each spiral is two C's as big as next. Ah. Yes, it's very true. There are 3. There are 3 in there. Okay, I'm not gonna go down that road. Maybe we'll do that composition maybe we'll start breaking some of these compositions down. Okay. And Pari, maybe you'll join me on one of these. Yeah, that would be good too. Okay, it is time. It is time. If you wanted to catch the repeat of this, make sure you tune in to obviously you can do the reruns. You can just go into Touch Base Daily and check out. And if you like this, hit the like. Don't just be a flyby, just kind of hanging out and then leave and don't say anything. Like it. If you enjoyed this, like it. If you are not subscribed to our Touch Base Daily, subscribe. Subscribe. If you're in the Instagram world over there, which most of you have moved over, if you're in Instagram though, please come on over to YouTube and be a part of our community. Again, subscribe and like. That's the best way you can do. Please like. See, Omar says it. Please like and subscribe. Please. Please. Okay, guys, it's time to get off of here. Um, just so you know, also remember Saturday coming up is our meetup. So if you're in the New York City area and you want to meet up with us, we're going to do that. Uh, Adrian says we are missing 7 likes. Come on, folks. Come on, folks. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something, your payment plan is a like. Like. Hit the likes. Hit the likes. That's how we gain momentum. Okay. I'm out of here, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this Touch Base Daily and our tip tip Tuesday. And it was wonderful hanging out with you all. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. We have a guest coming on tomorrow. It'll be a surprise guest. I because it'll be a surprise. You'll know who it is when we get here tomorrow. Okay, and thank you again for joining me on this wonderful Touch Base Daily. Okay, guys, I will see you tomorrow.